Hey everyone, I'm back again, and today I have a message coming to you from deep within my personal growth journey right as we speak. So this should be an interesting one, which I hope every single one of them becomes interesting for you. But today's message, I'm going to go quite deep, which I usually hope to do in each and every one of these messages. But this has been a really new learning for me, and one in which I'm like right in the middle. So you guys know when you hear me say often, about 6 months ago or about a year ago or whatever. And I reflect back on different points in my life where I was challenged with something and I was going through something. Just put a kind of a tab in this one, because I'm sure in about maybe a month, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, who knows, I'm going to be reflecting back on this particular time in my life. And you guys who follow me for a long time, you guys will know exactly what was going on. So basically, today's message is one in which I want you guys to play along at home with, as usual, and I'd love to hear your journey. If you want to share, what is your biggest fear right now? What is the thing that you feel is holding you back? What's scary for you in your life? And maybe we can really tap into that and really help you break through that today as I share my personal journey and then tap in with the comments with you guys. I can see a few of you here. Bill's in the house and Kane. Hello to you, Bill. And Michael's here as well. Good to see you. And Brian's from Oklahoma, USA. I love it. So drop me some comments, play along at home. But today we're talking about this really powerful concept, but I want to draw in something I've just learnt about that's really put some language to some of my own fearful patterns that I've previously not really been able to put language to or really articulate in a really meaningful, deep way outside of just analyzing it, right? So I'm hoping that me sharing this will help you. But today's message is all about the fact that fear of your fear perpetuates your fear. Or in another way, you might want to think about it from the place of it's our resistance to our fear that actually magnifies it, right? Because we're so afraid of the thing that we fear, it ends up perpetuating it. And I'm going to dive into how that actually happens. And like I said, share with you a new concept that's come into my sphere of understanding based on a book that I've just started studying, which I'll tell you guys right now. The book is... oh God, An Unspoken Voice. Hang on, just give me a second. I don't know where I'll find it. Oh yes, I do. I should have written it down. I knew I was gonna kind of go like that, but let me just tap into it, because I just sent it to one of my amazing clients this morning, because I was like, oh my gosh. In an Unspoken Voice, all right? And it's by Peter Levine, Dr. Peter Levine, and it's all about how the body releases trauma and restores goodness. Now, why am I studying a book like that, right? About traumas in the body, right? The reason is because it's come to my attention that the next level of my growth and my development is actually getting out of my ability to analyze everything very deeply and actually tap more into how my body is responding to different things in my life, and how fear comes up and is felt in the body. And emotions has been the big part that I've been focusing on, and now I'm kind of shifting in emotions and body and kind of trying to come full circle with this, right? So you guys might have some experience with this, but here's what it comes down to. If you guys have been listening to my messages over this past week in particular, what you've heard me talk into is a couple of experiences that I've had, and I had another full day yesterday where I was just completely wiped out, right? And that has now happened to me 3 times where I'm physically immobilized, all right? And it's happened to me previously in the past, particularly when I've been on the total wrong path in my life. And this what I can dive into with you guys now and put some language to, so you can get the the gist of it, and you can see how this plays out in your own life. I previously just thought, okay, that was happening then, and I'm never going to experience that ever again. And basically, what's happened for me is 3 times in about a week span, I've been wiped out and immobilized. And you guys had a laugh at me a few days ago because I thought, oh my gosh, have I got the coronavirus? Because I just was so lethargic. It was like I couldn't move. And so I've been really diving into this, and this book is actually really helping me to just get a new perspective. And one of the concepts that Dr. Peter Levine mentions in this book is this concept of tonic immobility, or it's termed TI in psychology. So what TI is, or tonic immobility, God, that's a bit of a mouthful. What that actually is it describes the state of involuntary paralysis, right? Which is what I've experienced a few times this week, in which people can't move or even speak. It can get to that extreme, right? They're just like completely immobilized. And basically, this happens to human beings when we're in a state of fear. Now, that fear may or may not be representative to what's actually happening in the moment, right? It could be triggered by something, or triggered by something in your external environment that triggers you back to maybe a traumatic experience that you haven't healed, or all sorts of things can happen. But let me explain it from this perspective that it was first identified, and then how it's kind of got to the point where you and I can have this happen to us. And it's really valuable to know, so that you can actually know where it is that your attention needs to be in order for you to be your most rounded out, healed, conscious individual that you can be. So basically, there's been a lot of studies with this in animals, right? And so scientists have, studied how animals respond to fear. So as you guys know, there's when we get into fear, there's fight. We can fight, we can flight, we can run off. We can freeze, or there's a fourth one. You guys can jump into the equation. My brain's it's still quite not online with what I've been processing this week. But basically, that's going to get to me. But you guys, if Google for me, or if you know what the answer is, what's that fourth F? Oh my gosh. But fight, freeze, or flight. We know those ones, right? So basically, in animals, what they have done many studies on is when you can pick up an animal and it kind of just immobilizes in your hands, right? And then it might be for a minute, might be for a few seconds, might be for hours, depending on how traumatic that experience was for that particular animal. So if you just gently, picked up an animal, say a bird, or say a guinea pig or whatever, and you just picked it up really gently and maybe just turned it over, it might only immobilize, say for a minute or two, and then it'll come back to life, right, when the perceived threat is over. And then they also did studies where they it was kind of a traumatic experience for the animal, like it got chased or something, and they grabbed it and then they flung it over or whatever, and then that animal would immobilize, but then it might take hours and hours, or I don't know, however long, but a really long period of time for that animal to then get into gear. And it's, for evolutionary wise, that could mean survival for that animal. And it often does mean survival for an animal out in the wild when it immobilizes. And then there's different things that can happen, but basically that could create a potentiality for that animal to escape, right? It could buy it time. It could, the animal who is the predator, it could, think, okay, I can go get my cubs now so that they can come and feast on this animal too. And then that deer's taken off, right? Because it immobilized, and the tiger or the lion thought, okay, it's all good now. It's dead. It'll just stay here. I'll go get the fam and then come back and have my feast. And then, it's taken off. So it's an evolutionary way of survival, right? These kind of mechanisms that animals have. But we're also animals, okay? And there's also been a lot of studies, particularly with rape victims, right? Who completely in the attack are just immobilized in fear, like they can't scream, they can't move, and the attack happens. And basically, that's a hugely traumatic experience for those people, right? And there's even been studies, which is really fascinating in this book, where rape victims years later actually end up murdering their the perpetrator, the person who attacked them and raped them, and then being sent to jail for many years. And then they kind of discount this evolutionary process of the time that it can take for somebody to come back online. And also there's a whole other rabbit hole that I'm not going to go into right now, but it instills this kind of rage, and we're going down a really dark tunnel there, which I'm totally fascinated with. But for the purposes of focusing for today's message about our fear of our fear perpetuating our fear, I'll stop it there. But just so you know that we as humans are also animals, and we have this response. So this tonic immobility can be triggered by something in your external environment triggering a fear within you, right? And basically, if you look at it, and I can use myself as the guinea pig, as I always am, of all things human development and whatever, right? If I can look at my experiences this week and see that 3 times this week, I have been in a state of tonic immobility, right? Like I've just been completely in paralysis, right? Practically just completely, and I've just been succumbed to the couch, which is very unheard of for me. Studying this stuff has allowed me an opening, and I'm not by any means there yet. Like I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of this message, this is going to be something I reflect on, say 6 months from now. I'm going to be like, 6 months ago, this is what I was going through and this is what was happening, right? So I'm right in the middle of it, and I'm just sharing little bits and pieces that I feel could be helpful for you as well. But basically, I could look at what was going on for me to get me to that point, right? What trigger came up for me that ended me in a state of immobility, right? In paralysis. And basically, I've been able to potentially identify, Thoreen, fawn is the 4th. Okay, thank you so much, my friend. I knew I had the team member in the house there. So basically, we've got our fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Awesome. Thanks, Serene. So basically what I've been able to pinpoint for myself with these states of paralysis that weren't the coronavirus at all, and in actual fact were this, what I believe to be this tonic immobility, was basically there's a specific area in my life that when it comes into play at different times, and right now, usually when this area of life is getting any focus, it usually comes in much later down the track. I get to this point of immobility, but I feel because of the experiences that I've had, because of the growth that I've been doing, it's happening a lot faster. That is getting triggered really, really fast for me to this point where I'm forced to look at it and confront it right here, right now, so that I don't go down the same paths that I've gone down before, which is to be completely oblivious to this and until years later. But basically, what I found is it triggers me into this state of freeze mode where I feel kind of entrapped and I feel a bit helpless, and I lose all my physical energy, right? I just feel completely depleted. And why that is because there are different experiences that I've had in my past that I wouldn't on face value think are traumatic at all. But as we go through our lives, and particularly I know for my own personal journey, as we go through our own lives, we discount and minimize experiences that we've had. And over time, all those little things, they might not be that big, but over time, as we continue to gather them and we continue to discount and we continue to not actually address how things can impact us on an emotional level, what can happen is you can get to this stacking point where all of those little things have become this kind of one traumatic thing that can put you in a state of paralysis, and you might not know what the hell has gone on in your life. You're just like, what the hell? Like I have been this week. I'm like, how can I be tired? Like, I'm looking after my health. I am getting enough sleep. I am doing the things that I love. How can I be at this state of paralysis? And basically, like I said, and I'll be able to talk much more deeply into this and be more specific with you guys when I actually do more of the healing work within myself and have the experience and have the language to be able to articulate it more for you. But basically, I can see the bigger kind of picture without the detail so much right now, but seeing the area of life that's triggering that for me and highlighting the work that I personally need to do in order to overcome this survival mechanism that we as animals, because that's what we are as human beings, we all have. And when we can do that, we can stop manifesting or magnifying our deepest fears and making them a reality. And what we can do instead is use it as to our advantage to go, wow, like this is that survival mechanism that's coming into play. So, okay, I can notice that within my physical body, my symptoms, what's going on for me, and I can go, what is this connected to? And we can actually treat the cause rather than trying to treat the symptoms, right? And think, okay, we've got coronavirus, or we've got to have some higher levels of B12 in our diet, or, whatever we could do, right? And we're trying to treat this symptomatically, but we're not actually addressing the true cause. So that's why I'm always saying to you guys, and hopefully role modeling a little bit for you, which is to become the expert of yourself, right? And to tackle it from all angles. We've got to look at it like in an intellectual way. We've got to look at it in an emotional way. We've got to look at it in a physical way. And we've also got to look at it in a more spiritual way. Like what are we making our lives about? And who are we really, right? Like all these different angles have to come into play. So you might be in your own life, and you can try this on for size, you might be finding yourself responding to life in a particular way. You might find yourself like me, which has been falling into this state of freeze, which is, really, paralysis. Like you can't even move forward, right? And then you keep perpetuating that because you're afraid of like stopping or slowing down, and that prevents you from moving forward, and you start perpetuating this cycle. Or it might be for you that you get in this total state of anxiety. I've been there too, and you're kind of in this flight mode, like, you just got to go, 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 go. And there's so much anxiety going on for you. That might be your particular pattern. There might, whatever it is, but look at what are those patterns in your life. Maybe they're showing up physically, and they're getting in the way of you living to your highest values, to you moving in the directions that you're most inspired by. And, you might also look at what I've just shared with you, with this concept of tonic immobility, and that involuntary paralysis, that where we can't even move or even speak, which I found myself in with the major areas of my personal life, in terms of intimate relationship and in terms of my pathway forward with what I actually want to do in my life, right? They really can show up majorly. And when we have a fear of looking at our fears, that actually perpetuates our fear, rather than having the courage to go, I'm going to become the expert on myself. I'm going to actually go here. I'm going to look at what is going on here. What is this pattern? And I'm going to do it with self-compassion. And I'm going to do it with kindness, because anytime you judge yourself for being in fear, that is in itself a fear of the fear that perpetuates the fear, right? So you have to realize that the only way out of our fears is to have courage to address them, but we have to do it from a place of self-compassion, right? We have to have that container in which we can actually go there. Otherwise, you're just going to perpetuate your fears, as I have done a few times in my life. So, and I'm sure I'll do a fair few more times in my life, and that's the journey of being a human being. But just know that and decide that you want to be the kind of person who is constantly up leveling for yourself. You're getting to know yourself at deeper and deeper levels, and you are having higher levels of courage, that is getting you to those next levels, so that you don't have to be immobilized in your life, however that shows up for you, and have your fears perpetuating themselves and preventing you from actually attaining and reaching for the life and the existence that you'd be most inspired to create and live in your life. All right, because if I let this pattern go on in my life, it could cost me all the things that I hold most dear. Right? Because when I'm immobilized by fear and I'm not getting to the bottom of the source and the cause, I can't actually show up and do the very things that are my highest values, right? I can't self-actualize, right? I can't reach a new level of my potential if I'm succumbing to that and not having the courage and the compassion to go there. I also can't authentically express, which is another highest value of mine. I can't contribute in a really meaningful way because I can't show up. And I also can't create intimate depth in my life with the people around me because I'm not intimately connected in the depth of who I am, right? That's the foundation. So I hope that me sharing this with you guys is of value, and it just gets you thinking, maybe, what's the fear that I'm afraid of that keeps perpetuating this same cycle? Or how do I show up when I'm in a massive state of fear, right? And what triggers that? And are there particular realms in my life that are most affected by this? And, I hope it encourages you to go a little deeper and go, well, where did that come from? And where could have that come from? And you'll be very surprised to make those connection points to childhood, to different relationships, to different experiences, to different belief systems and values. All sorts of things are, in deep connection that are driving you in the subconscious, that every time you're presented with a physical response or an emotional response or that could, that's coming up for you, it's an invitation within, right? To go deeper within. And if you would ever like support with that, that's the work that I do with you guys. And as you know, I'm constantly doing with myself so that I can better support other people on that journey as well. All right, so you can always reach out. Let me check in with you guys though. I've been off on a big tangent today, but I hope that it's of value, me just sharing this. And like I mentioned, this is like sharing whilst I'm totally in it. 3 times this week, I've been totally wiped out and paralyzed, right? And I have had to go on this journey. Most of that time was spent in just distraction mode. I noticed, I'm just like, well, I'll just watch something on TV, or I'll just distract myself with this thing or whatever, just to entertain myself in some way. And I noticed that come up for me for this kind of need for instant gratification. So I didn't need to go to the depths of where that fear was. But, then it's over those kind of opportunities and those windows of opportunity, I've been able to go deeper and deeper, and I'm still in it, right? So I've got far to go, but just sharing in the moment in the hope that it could be helpful to you guys as well. So drop me some comments. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Have you got any questions or anything that you'd love to share and contribute to today's conversation? I'd love connecting with you. So as I said, we've got Bill in the house, and Kane, and Michael, and Brian, and Jose, hello to you, and Angie, and Julian, Thorane, and Edgar, sending love from Chihuahua, Mexico, as usual, always received, my friend, and much love coming right back at you. And Patrice is here, and Judy, and some oh my god moments in this, Serene. Yes, I know you've got some deeper insights with our conversations as well. And Pam, I'm loving that this is interesting to you, beautiful soul. Hope you're doing really well. Oh, and Pam, you let me know it was Fawn as well. Thank you so much, guys. I know I've got you guys on my team when I have a little brain freeze. And Daryl from the Great White North, always good to see you, my friend. And Mike and Shane and Carl and Chris and Carlos and Chris, people need truth and I won't keep it any longer. Okay, that's true. I don't know what you're sharing here, but I hope it's a value and I hope it is relatable here, and I appreciate you being here. And Thoreen, it's happened to me a couple of times before, the lethargy. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's an interesting process, one in which, like I mentioned to you guys, it happened to me in a big way when I was like right at the end of really uncovering a deeper inner truth about not being on the right path with law. Like, it put me in fetal position where I could not do anything. I could not move. And then that really it's kind of had some little glimpses, but like this week has been massive for me. So yeah, and I'd love to hear your insights on what that experience was like for you, Thoreen, and maybe a deeper truth, because that's what I feel it always comes down to. At least with my own experience, you can try this on for size, but every time there's like something like this, an experience where you just like stopped in your tracks in whatever realm and whatever way that happens for you, my question to myself is always this: what deeper truth am I afraid to acknowledge? Okay, like that's where a lot of juiciness is. And every single time I've been able to find a deeper truth that I was fearful of acknowledging. And there's going to be a part of you, like me, that just wants to switch off and just wants to distract and doesn't want to go there. But, you know, all that does is perpetuates the cycle. And all that does is, you know, gets you on the roller coaster where, okay, the window opens, then you have this opportunity, and then you can choose to distract, or you can choose to ask yourself a question like, what deeper truth am I afraid or terrified of acknowledging, right? And that's the two pathways in that window. If you miss the window, it'll close. You'll kind of get back to normal and you'll feel like, okay, well, we escaped that one. Like, awesome, let's get on with our lives, until the window reopens again, because you haven't actually solved the cause and you haven't actually addressed the underlying truth that's going unacknowledged. And so the window's going to open again, right? And that's how you can look at these moments in your life, rather than judge yourself for feeling lethargic and then just, you know, fall off the wagon. Instead of doing that, realize you're being presented a window of opportunity. You can jump through the window right now, or you can distract yourself, turn the other way, and then have that window reopen in a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, whatever it is. And just know that that deeper truth is going to come knocking again. Like, you're not going to outrun it, right? And you have to address it. So take it upon yourself to address things quickly, right? Otherwise, you're just having that underlying, unaddressed, unacknowledged fear, you know, guiding and directing you down a path that might actually not be good for you, right? I've been there before as well. So, you know, I still succumb to this pattern. Like, I'm sure it's just a part of being a human, right? But over time, my hope and my wish for myself and the action that I'm taking to get there is to address things like this much quicker and have the courage to do so. So, feeling that with you, Thoreen, and awesome. And Marnie's here as well, and Tara and Sarah. Awesome to see you, beautiful souls. And Edgar, thank you for this message. You're so right about being compassionate with ourselves in order to accept our shadow, embrace it, and use it as fuel to bring more light to our own life. Edgar, such wise words, and I'm really, really grateful that you shared those with us and that you are resonating with today's message. And thank you for really highlighting that point, because self-compassion, if you don't have it, like, you're perpetuating your own fears. Because if you go to your fears with judgment, you just end up perpetuating the cycle and kind of almost like deepening them in, right? So you want to actually, the only way really to expel them out for what they actually are is through courage to address them, and compassion as kind of that sphere of holding space for yourself. So love that, Edgar. Thank you for showing up and sharing those words. And Bill, sometimes you just have to slow down. I like to take time off, especially between projects. I don't analyze it too much. I value doing nothing sometimes. Bill, I could certainly take a page out of your book and learn. And yeah, that's been part of the process for me as well. And that's where I actually started. As soon as I thought, okay, it's not coronavirus, I thought, okay, I need to enter some more downtime for myself. And now I've gone even deeper than that because that wasn't the answer, right? Because it kept perpetuating itself this week for myself. So sometimes it's a journey, right? You got to do the best that you can to discover the reasons why that's happening and to be compassionate and kind. And, you know, I personally have a tendency of being very analytical about what's going on for myself, which has definitely served me, but it's only one level of your own development, right? Then you got to be able to really feel more rather than think about the feelings. You got to feel the feelings, right? And feel the body and all sorts of things with that as well. So I so appreciate you showing up today, Bill, and thank you so much for sharing your perspective here as well. Always appreciated. And Wendy, good to see you, beautiful. Happy Sunday to everyone. Thanks, Vanessa, for the advice today. You're so welcome. Thank you so much for showing up. I always appreciate seeing you. And Simon's here as well. And Laval, my fellow Tigers fan. I always love it. So good to see each and every one of you guys today. I really hope that this has really resonated with you and just got you thinking, like, where is it in my life that I'm afraid of addressing my own fears, and by doing so it's actually perpetuating my fears, right? My fears just keep resurfacing and taking over my life because I'm not courageous enough and compassionate enough with myself to actually discover the cause, right? And to nurture that. And also that's why I wanted to share that book that I'm going through today. Oh my gosh, did I forget it again? In an Unspoken Voice by Dr. Peter Laval. All right, that's the book I'm currently studying right now, which has just brought my attention and awareness to this concept of tonic immobility, which is, you know, it's a very known pattern, very highly studied pattern as a self-protection or survival mechanism in animals that we as humans have. All right. And you might be having that come up for you in your own life. And like I have 3 times this week, and it just could point you to what's actually going on. For me, it just helped me to realize that things in my external world were triggering unhealed parts of myself that are in connection to different parts of my life that really, if I really want to reach for and experience day to day my highest values in life, I have to actually, you know, remove this stuff with courage and compassion. I have to go there and I have to address it, and I have to confront different things and own different things that I've previously denied. All right. So, and even deceived myself into not having there. Right. So, we're interesting, very fascinating creatures, us human beings. And so take it upon yourself to become the expert on you. That is what I personally believe, you know, your pathway to actualizing your highest potential in this lifetime. All right. So hope this has served you. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for showing up live today, for contributing to the conversation. You are so appreciated. I always love what you bring and sharing your experiences here. If it's been of value, please do share it. And as always, the message I always love leaving you guys with is to go out there and live authentically, right? And you can't live authentically if you're not deeply connected with what's going on for you, right? So each and every one of these messages are to help you to go in, right? And go discover a new part of who you are, discover a deeper understanding of who you are, a deeper connection with yourself, so that you can ultimately go out there, live authentically. You can also go out there and love deeply, right? None of this surface stuff. Like, we want to go for the depths. And you can also go out there and contribute meaningfully and make your life, you know, one where you really feel like you've made a meaningful difference in your own unique way. All right. Really grateful again to each and every one of you. Chrissy's just joined us. Anybody who's just jumping on now, please do catch a recording. Get a ton of value from today's message. I'm signing off. I'm sending you guys all of my love, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow, so long as I'm not in paralysis again. All right. Much love.